So I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
Ryan Dunnigan's in a faraway location.
Yeah. I'm currently in Italy right now. My girlfriend and I are visiting her family, and I'm not my girlfriend anymore. My fiance, actually. Mm-hmm. So visiting her family in Italy, part of her family in Italy, and I'm gonna stop there because I don't want this to turn into our trip's going great. We saw the ruins. We did this. We're not gonna do that. People are here to hear about Suicide Squad. So I'm just letting you know there's a time difference. So if Spencer's all chipper and awake because he's a very big morning person, I've been walking around the scorching heat all day and about to pass out. So that's just.
Well, I feel like if I was in Italy, like, I don't think I would care about as much the historical stuff. Not saying that wouldn't be cool, but I feel like I'd be like, hey, where's all, like, the spaghetti western type stuff? I know lots that's shot in Spain, but, like, there's still got to be, like, kind of remnants of that kind of stuff around there, Or I'd be that guy who would also be, like, looking at, like, be all the way in Italy, It's like the thing that, like, most parents would be like, oh, my gosh, we're all right here. We could see all this stuff and so on. And what's he doing? He's looking for a fucking retro video game shop somewhere.
To bring it back to Suicide Squad, I actually did walk by a comic book store, and they had an amazing selection. A lot of books that I was looking for a while. Mm-hmm. It's just too bad they're all in fucking Italian.
Yeah,
so,
that's the only downfall is then you'd get that. But like, I feel like that's almost what I would be looking for is like the weird shit that I could find that I couldn't get somewhere else.
Just reading some 90s cable with Google Translate out.
Yeah, exactly. Just something like, or it'd just be kind of cool if you just had like some Italian kind of like posters and so on like that. That'd be kind of neat. But
I've never been around. Yeah, I do. I would like to see some spaghetti western stuff, but I'm not sure how far close that is to us. I'll be honest. I don't want to drive too far because people drive like fucking psychos around here. It's like a game of Mario Kart whenever you get on the street.
Yeah, it's so weird how that is. It's like you realize how civilized America is once you go to like other places in the world, and you're just like, oh, they just literally just have like almost like too much freedom in the wrong direction.
It's still pretty cool here. I'm just not a fan of the driving aspect. But as far as the Suicide Squad goes, bring it back to that.
Yeah, we're going to the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad. It's almost like they refer to it as Suicide Squad 2, but it's realistically like Suicide Squad 3 because it's technically that like Harley Quinn and like the the whatever like long ass title get into like the siren or not the sirens but the
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey, like like that technically is almost like a Suicide Squad 2 because it sort of has that same feel and tone. I mean, it stars in a sense, I guess you would say, weirdly enough, your Suicide Squad main character.
But at the same time, I still feel like this one. I feel like you could watch this movie separate from the other two, just like the Harley Quinn movie. I feel like you can watch that separate from the other two as well.
Oh, yeah,
there are things clearly tying it together, and this one felt more like I could definitely see the obvious connections between the original Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn, and this. But at the same exact time, I also felt like that one, or this one particularly. I mean, it's obvious because his name's on it. It's hard not to notice it, but it had that R-rated Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how they're all like standalone stories, but they are kind of like connected characters and so on like that. And this one is, I mean, 100%. Like it literally just feels like that's almost like I feel like, hey, James, you want to do? I mean, I know you got booted off Guardians of the Galaxy, but here you can come to DC. You could pretty much do the Guardians of the Galaxy, but now you have like the Disney Mickey Mouse gloves on anymore. Do whatever the fuck you want, just so we can. It's almost our way to sort of like say fuck you to Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's sort of what it kind of has that feeling. I mean, yeah, almost in a weird way that it feels very Guardians of the Galaxy, and I guess that's not too bad. But you know what I mean? It does kind of like maybe it does give it that feeling. You know what I mean? It's like you know what you're in for. I mean, shit, it's got like half the actors from Guardians of the Galaxy in it.
Well, here's the thing about it too, though. When you think about it, because they have this whole roster, and we're getting into spoilers here. When you get to the whole movie in general, Suicide Squad is we all hate each other. We have to work together just because we have to, and then if push comes to shove, if it's you or me, we're going to kill each other because that's just how this whole thing works. But it could also go to the direction where this went, where it was something to the effect of like, oh, you know what? We do kind of like care for each other by the end. Not everybody, because some people screw each other over and kill each other horribly. But at the exact same time, you're kind of getting one or the other. And this one goes more of the some people are bad, but some people aren't as bad as we thought.
Yeah, it does have that, and I mean, I will say, like, when this movie sort of started off, I was kind of having sort of mixed feelings because it's weird because it's like I think about in the very first Suicide Squad live action movie. That
We're
movie,
going the same direction. I know it.
well, no, well, not necessarily that, but that movie starts off like the first 45 minutes of that movie. This is like kind of the weird thing about it, are like extremely good. Like that movie has like a great start, and that's the thing is I remember just being like, every single time you watch it, you're like, dude, this is so fucking good. This might be like one of the best DC movies they've ever put out, and so on like that. And then you get kind of like to the main mission in that one, and it's not that it goes bad, but then it just kind of peters down to like an okay movie, and then just rides that okay movie for the rest of it. So it's like you start off so high, and then it's like this like. You're just kind of floating now, like down here. And it's just like, now this just kind of feels like those, like, sort of like, I always feel like kind of like the offshoot sort of superhero movies. Like, you know what I mean? Just the ones that sort of come out and you see them anyways. And you're like, that should have been more amazing than it really was, I mean, like almost kind of like a Venom, but though I'll still say I like Suicide Squad more than Venom. But, kind of in those the extra kind of superhero ones. But the odd one is when this one started off, I was almost like it had the other way around where it was like, I don't know. It was like at first it's like had a lot of dumb jokes in it, and so I'm like, I don't know. Is this what we're getting into? Is it going to be kind of retarded and so on like that? And then it's kind of showing their first roster, and you got like Harley Quinn squad, and they get Michael Rooker, and they got all these huge actors because then they also have what's his name, fucking Green Lantern in there. Green Lantern, animated Green Lantern.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Nathan Fillion's in there.
Nathan Fillion, yeah, that's right. And Pete Davidson from SNL, basically.
Yeah, so they got all these people in there and so on, but it's kind of weird at this point. And then it's like they kill off Captain Boomerang right off the bat, and then I was almost like, well, that for me kind of it like put like a sour taste in my mouth. Like, I don't know, I might not like this movie now. Like that was like what I was thinking for like the first 10 minutes after that, 15 minutes, I was just like, I don't know. It's like it's got dumb jokes. They killed the best Suicide Squad member off already in the beginning. They pulled almost like the Mortal Kombat 2. I'm not saying that Johnny Cage may be the best character, but that kind of feeling. And then it's like you get to the second team and so on. And then as that kind of goes on, then I started really getting into it and actually started really enjoying it.
Well, going off the Captain Boomerang too, because I was like watching the. Because, I was like, oh, cool, they brought Captain Boomerang back. And then not thinking much about it. And then as the movie's coming closer and closer, I was watching the trailer, and I'm like, I'm not seeing Captain Boomerang a whole lot in this. I'm not seeing him standing next to Idris Elba. I'm not seeing him stand next to King Shark. I'm not. I think they're going to do a bait and switch on me. I'm not entirely sure. And then when they had that whole team, and the only recurring characters I saw a lot in the trailers was Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, and then everybody else, you don't see at any point in the trailer. And I was like, oh, I know what they're going to do here. Okay. So I was kind of like almost kind of preparing myself for that. And here's the thing. I did not want him to die because that's one of my favorite Flash villains. And it's also one of my favorite members of the Suicide Squad. So that was like immediately like, not stepping off with the right foot here. But at the exact same time, though, I kind of thought about it for a minute, like, all right, well, just in the context of these movies, of all the characters who had the least amount to do in the first one, who was that? Captain Boomerang. He barely did anything.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that makes you feel like, oh, sweet, they're going to fucking give Captain Boomerang. Because I feel like Jai Courtney also kind of kills that Captain Boomerang and so on. So it's like, oh, they're going to give him his due here. And then it's like, yeah, they pulled. I mean, I get what they're doing. They're throwing a bunch of big actor or somewhat bigger actors right off the bat, and then they're just gonna kill them all off like one of those kind of. I get that part, but it's like, I feel like if there was, could you just switch Captain Boomerang with anybody else? I don't care. Shit, have Harley Quinn get killed off. I know that'd piss everybody else off, but as long as Captain Boomerang's there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Apparently, the Flash movie is going to do another reboot, so we'll see what happens. We'll have Captain Boomerang back, and people, they're either they love Captain Boomerang or they fucking hate Captain Boomerang. I mean, even the new 52 writer for Flash, I don't think ever used him at all. So it's like one of those things. Like it's a real give or take kind of thing. The animated universe stuff, they love him. They utilize him greatly.
Yeah. I think some people think he's corny because he's throwing boomerangs, you know what I mean? But I think that's almost what makes him more badass, is the fact that... I was just saying because he has a weird kind of like gimmick, but that gimmick almost works in a very... I don't know, it's almost just kind of cool. I don't know. I don't even think boomerangs are corny. I think boomerangs are kind of sweet.
Well, I don't even think his powers or his ability is that cool. I just think he's a funny character. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of all the Flash villains that he's like the one, like, because they're all like,
Blue
they all have
collar
a code.
workers and
Yeah, and even though he kind of has a little bit of that code too, to an extent, he's probably the shittiest of them all. So, and he's also probably the funniest of them all. It's more his personality that makes me like that character so much. His ability's all right. It's cool. But it's more his character why I like him.
I guess we sort of got our Captain Boomerang on screen for a long while. Is really like the Kano in fucking the Mortal Kombat like 3 movie. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's even a better version.
Because
yeah,
that was sort of like, it felt like that Kano was, because that's the best part of that movie is by far is Kano, and that almost felt like he was Kano sort of almost. I know Kano and Captain Boomerang are kind of similar, but Captain Boomerang I guess is technically older, so you could kind of say it had almost that Captain Boomerang feel to him.
Yeah. And the rest of the team, though, once we got to the rest of the team that was there, like I found myself enjoying the whole movie. I do think the beginning was the slowest part, but then once they probably got to that camp, like I was enjoying the scenes of Idris Elba, because I do like that bait and switch where like like Amanda Waller knows Rick Flag, worked with Rick Flag a whole bunch of times, knowingly sending him to his death on the diversion mission.
Yeah.
So that right there was already kind of a Jesus. That's like that this because the first movie, it's like Amanda Waller has like a bigger purpose of what she wants to do. She just has really cold-hearted means of doing it. This one is just like, no, she's a full-on bad guy. She's probably worse than a lot of the villains are fighting, and that's why I always thought Amanda Waller was a really interesting character. I mean,
well, she's not really even a bad guy. It's just she really just doesn't let emotion get in the way of like the mission at hand. She's like the person who. She does what her mission is to the fullest. It's like she's not gonna cry over someone dying or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like I think that's sort of the difference. It's not necessarily that she's a bad guy. It's just
she's a bad guy. She's a bitch. She's a bad guy.
I'm saying like, but that's like what I mean is like for what she's doing, like it's like one of those ones like if your fucking feelings aren't like what her problem is, you know what I mean? She's there to get the mission done, no matter what, at any cost. She's that kind of character.
But at the exact same time, you could use that logic, like what's stopping her from dropping Bloodsport onto the expendable team and using Rick Flag for the other one? It's kind of like, it's like the idea that she, like, even her own people are expendable. She doesn't give a shit.
Exactly.
The idea of it being, the example I was going to make, like in certain comics, in certain animated series, she has a turnaround. In this one, there is no turnaround. And it's more of like she's more focused on America's interest than she is in even stopping Starro or anything else like that. Like she's almost more concerned about getting the file out and extracting that before using anything else. That's almost more of her main goal here. So, I mean, I think she's a great character, but this one really nails home that, like, yeah, you can't deal with her like you can in other things.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's one of those ones, like, I get the mission that, like, at hand. You can't let that information get out. You have to, like, kind of destroy it. That's why I feel like I'm actually on John Cena's character. I felt like I was 100% on his side during this, like, whole, like, scuffle they have towards the end, because it's just, like, one of those ones, like, no, that stuff can't get out to the public. What are you, crazy? Like, they can't handle that kind of stuff. Like, I got John Cena's part, like, really well. That was probably my favorite character in the whole movie. He took over for the loss of Captain Boomerang. I felt like I got John Cena to make up for it.
Oh, he's getting his own show.
I know, I heard about that too.
Yeah, you saw the little teaser at the end, teeing that off.
So that I'm very excited about, because the John Cena character was one of those ones, like, that was totally awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like I thought, like, because part of me when I heard Idris Elba was going to be in this, is like, okay, cool, he's going to be Bronze Tiger. So I was really excited, like, oh, he's playing this miscellaneous Superman villain that I almost forgot existed. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I mean, it seems like you're trying to find a replacement for Deadshot, which they were. But at the exact same time,
originally they were going to go old school movie style, where he was literally just going to come in and play Deadshot.
I thought maybe for a minute, but then I was just
that's what the original plan was, actually.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, that was actually it. They were just going to do, like, back in the day when you lose one actor, you just kind of get another actor, but it's the exact same character.
Maybe he didn't want to do an American accent.
Well, it was that, and then they also said, they're like, well, what if we want to bring Deadshot back again, and we want to use Will Smith? Let's just make a brand new character, or use a different character.
Yeah. I guess they probably didn't, we didn't put him through all the martial arts training to be Bronze Tiger, so here we are. But he could still fight.
Hmm.
He was still a brawler in Hobbs and Shaw, so it could still work.
Yeah.
But even in this though, like I still thought he won me over though. Not that I was already kind of won over by him because Idris Elba was just a badass.
Yeah, he's already a great actor, so it doesn't matter what he's in.
And he's already he's an ex, I think, like kickboxer, or ex UFC fighter before he was an actor. So he's already got all that shit down. So the fact that when he was coming in, I was like, okay, well, regardless of who he is, it's a win. It just seems like a weird choice, but I did like the spectrum because usually the Suicide Squad is mostly Batman villains, but this one, okay, you got an Aquaman villain, you got a couple Batman villains, of course, and you got a Superman villain. So on the head of the team right there. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Zach, and I also like how they even threw in the oh yeah, he's the guy shot Superman at some point during one of the other movies we never saw. I was just like, oh okay, cool. Let's kind of throw that little thing in there and so on. That's how he got into prison and whatnot. And I mean, he's the character who's kind of he's very much, I guess, like the Deadshot, where he's gonna, well, I guess a little bit different, but still, he's like the kind of guy who's he's doing what he needs to get done, for the job. He's not necessarily like a bad guy, you know what I mean? But it's almost like whatever the contract says, he'll go for it, kind of that whole ideal.
Well, even the whole part with him and there's the whole thing he has with his daughter where you think oh, okay, the guy with the hitman with the daughter he loves. Oh no, he's a shitty dad. He's a neglectful dad. So they totally kind of flipped that on its head. You didn't even see that coming right there. I was like, okay, he's gonna. I mean, yeah, part of him cares about his daughter, but he's just like, look, I'm a piece of shit. I'm no good for her, so I'm just gonna push her away, keep her away, let her raise herself because she's better off that way than me.
Yeah.
And then coming around, he steps up when he has to. So watching this movie, I know he's probably drastically different in the comics, and I've never read a comic with him in it, at least not one that I can remember. But,
well, yeah, because that's the thing is I never saw that. Even when I try to look that character up, there was little to no information on him. So I feel like if he is in something, he must only be in like a book or something, if that's it.
I think he's in a couple of things. So I found more stuff on him, and I want to say maybe they used him in the New 52 for a second, but I want to say they're just like, okay, who's similar and who can we replace with him? So I think that was the mind space. But no, I thought that, yeah, he definitely stole the show. And then, King Shark, that's another character that everyone's all talking about. And I thought King Shark was pretty good. I know they changed them from other things, but, King Shark, he's either big and dumb or he's the awkward, nerdy black dude in Harley Quinn,
Yeah, exactly. So, well, it's I thought the King Shark kind of worked because he's there just for good violence and stuff. I mean, he does kind of have some dumb lines at first, but it's I don't know what it is. This is one of those weird movies that after about the 20-minute mark, the dumb lines. I mean, there's still some throughout it where it's just they throw. It almost just feels like they get a 15-year-old to come in and throw out something stupid, to put in there. But for the most part, it kind of irons itself out almost from those dumb lines, and they actually start becoming pretty solid ones as it kind of goes on farther. And then he even becomes kind of good. It's kind of weird. You got Stallone. I feel like that must have been kind of a hard one to talk Stallone in. Okay, Stallone. You're gonna play a shark. Well, that's cool. The shark's kind of retarded, though.
Well, that's fine.
Wait, are you saying that I'm retarded? No, Stallone. We're not saying the shark's retarded. But you're gonna play it. So if I'm a shark, I'm a retarded shark, is what you're saying. You calling me a retarded shark?
He just comes in it's well, this is kind of that's when he starts yelling like that scene in Rambo when he breaks down. Good, he's doing it. This is just what we need.
Okay, you got the recorder going, right? We're gonna use that somewhere in here.
Well, it's even because I think it's kind of funny that he's doing that because because Sylvester Stallone is way smarter than people credit him for, but he just has the and I think it's funny that this is a movie that would have come out I think it's going for the vibe of 80s or even 70s war film, and the idea of let's get Stallone in here. Not only let's get Stallone, but let's let him just play the stereo, beyond the stereotype everyone makes of him. And he's just yeah, sure, why not? I like James Gunn. We haven't got around to the audience yet. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's that. Well, because it's one of those ones because at first I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, okay, I wonder if he'll be on the Corto Maltese, somewhere in there. And then it was just about a moment in the movie. I was like, wait a second, I think Stallone's the shark. I think he's playing King Shark. And
wait a minute. Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, because I was just gonna say, because it's almost like he's got sort of a filter over his voice. It doesn't sound 100% like Stallone at first, But then there'll be just like moments like, oh no, there's the Stallone, but you know what I mean? It's like it must have just been like, hey, you know how popular Groot was? It's like you'll be like Groot, but with like dialogue.
Murder.
Yeah, and murder Groot.
He basically is. I am sort of seeing the archetypes for different characters. I mean, weapon wise maybe, but like archetype, like Bloodsport is way different than like Peter Quill, Star-Lord. But I do see like kind of like, all right, well, this is kind of a standing character for this over here or that. Somebody who I was at first I was like, oh, you're doing that guy? Okay, I see what you're doing here. There's some things this movie does where it's trying to like flip your expectations and it flips them again. Like I was so confident that Polka Dot Man was going to make it out of the movie just because he is such like a weird, random, obscure character that they hardly ever use. If they do use him, it's as a joke.
Yeah.
So I was so obscure that like flip your expectations and assume he's one of the ones that's going to die. So when he's there, like, oh, he's here. Not only that, he's like one of the most sympathetic characters of the movie. And that's the thing about it, because it's like this movie goes out of the way to like, oh, they're not all villains. Some of them are villains. Some of them are people with just superpowers, and they probably fucked up at some point, and they have nowhere else to put them other than Belle Reve. So here they are.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed match of between villains, anti-heroes, people that just kind of made one mistake, because that's almost like how, Ratcatcher 2 sort of is. Like, it's more just like, here's this kind of like hobo girl who had a hobo father. For some reason, I like how it's like it's a hobo father, but he invented this thing that nobody else could have thought of. He talks to rats, I always think that's kind of funny, but that character
they
still...
get him more heroin.
Yeah, getting up with this pretty much like that. Like, we need to get more heroin. But in a sense, it's like one of those ones that's like, probably if, circumstances were different, but, she wouldn't be in prison. She could actually be a superhero. But she actually just always kind of been poor and on the street. So, you do the only thing you turn to, and it's like, hey, I got rats. We can go rob a bank.
Well, even like the way they did, going back to Guardians of
the Suicide Squad.
Guardians of Peacemaker. Like, even going back to him for a second, I kind of like how he's just like this crazy patriot, and he has like those dark I love peace. I don't care how many men, women, and children have to kill to get it. like a lot of that kind of humor in the movie. And there's even the part when Bloodsport and Peacemaker are having this competition of who can do the coolest kills. And there's that part where he walks by one dude, just looking at him, not breaking eye contact, like stabs some dude sleeping like 15 times, just walking by. And then they realize, oh, this is the good guy camp.
Yeah, I love that, because then they go in there and they finally they like murder all these people. They even shoot a guy's fucking dick off and everything like that. I felt like that was just there to be like, yeah, we fucking did that in a DC movie, just fucking big old wiener hanging out.
And then there's even the one dude like watching TV or something. They shoot like a fan. The fan lands on his dick, and then they shoot something else lands on his head. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's so creative with the kills in this. And then there's even... Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, no, you keep going.
Well, also the fact, I already know that it's not surprising to me that James Gunn knows his comic book stuff. But I was like, Corto Maltese... Oh, the place from Dark Knight Returns. All right. I know they referenced it in 1989 Batman. It wouldn't surprise me the least bit if they referenced it in other Batman comics or other DC comics in general. But I was like, okay, Corto Maltese, right on. All right. I was like, that's not the deepest cut, but still for the average audience, a pretty deep cut.
Yeah, no, I thought that worked as a good location to kind of have that at, because in a sense, like, though you always hear about Corto Maltese, I feel like I don't remember ever kind of being there, other than like there's that one scene where Superman in Dark Knight Returns is kind of like throwing shit at it, like
lifting a tank or something.
Yeah, like exactly. Like he's lifting the tank, and for some reason I thought he was throwing like a ship over or something, but maybe I'm drawing a blank. But
he may have done that in the animated movie, maybe even in the book. It's been a minute since.
Yeah, that's for sure. I just have a picture in my head of him like flipping a ship, but that could be anything. But so I thought that made for a perfect location to kind of have it on and so on. I do like when after they do all that kill spree in the camp and so on, and then they open up and then they realize like, oh shit, there's Rick Flag there. Wait a second, this was the Resistance and so on. They just like murdered them all out there, and it's got the chick from Predator 3 is kind of running the Resistance. Yeah. That's what I kind of thought. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah, she's been in stuff.
But, I'm saying like, she's obviously probably in tons of stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, that's like that's what I always think of her as Predator 3.
Oh, yeah, no, I get you. What's I going to say? Rick Flag, I thought they did more with him in this movie. I kind of liked, because before he was just the guy on, like...
He's just a guy who had a weird girlfriend who's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, she had a weird. She had a thing for belly dancing, and that was it. You know, it's kind of like that's his girlfriend. He wants to save his girlfriend. This, I thought they gave a lot more to him. I even kind of liked his look a lot more. He looked like he was an '80s action hero.
Yeah, well, because Rick Flag, and the other one was kind of like he was sort of just the generic like here's the guy who holds the mission plot together, and that's about generally what he is. Not saying that he's like technically bad, but like I mean, like that's sort of what he felt like. He was just there like. He's just that centerpiece, and everybody else around him is going to be it. But they actually kind of made him like, oh, no, he's the leader character. He's more definitive. He's got more charisma and stuff going on here. And then what I really actually like, too, is the fact that Harley Quinn did not, like, override this. Because that's always kind of the downfalls. Whenever you get the Harley Quinn in there, it really just becomes the Harley Quinn show. I mean, the second Suicide Squad movie, well, the Birds of Prey one, that one almost kind of, like, defines, like, literally it's the Harley Quinn show. It practically says that in the title, like, over and over. Where in this one, it's nice because she's there, but she's almost not really even the main character. I mean, I guess she probably has some of the main she has her moments, of course, but it's not like she's there like 90% of the time. She actually kind of disappears for quite a while. We focus a lot on the other story, and then she kind of just has like the B story of the film.
Yeah, well, even going back to Harley Quinn and the DC live action movies for a second, she even like... Birds of Prey, I like that movie. But the thing is, my biggest problem with it is it's called Birds of Prey.
Yep.
If it was called Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey hop into it, that'd be fine. My biggest problem with the movie, aside from Batgirl, Cassandra Cain, is just the title. And beyond that, it's, a fun movie. But this one, you're right, because she does come in, she does do a good. They do expand on her, and they do like. I kind of like how they have like this almost this 5-10 minute build up to this joke of like she's in like a romance novel and all this stuff is happening and like is that what? And she before one of the guys in the middle of his bad guy speech, she shoots him like I'm sorry, dead kids are a red flag.
Which I thought the only thing I will say though is like I felt like. I feel Harley Quinn, you know what I mean? If you're with the Joker, shooting a kid ain't a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of feels like that's probably day one of, like, you get the job as, like, a Joker goon, be like, okay, you got to shoot a kid. What? It's just, when the time comes, I want you to be prepared.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that was a little bit, like, it sounded weird. I felt like, I know because like Harley Quinn's.
Well, we know how those relationships. We know how those relationships turned out. Like, every bad relationship I've ever been in, somebody wants to kill a kid. So, yeah, that's one of the patterns.
Well, I know what I feel like they've kind of because Harley Quinn's become the more popular she gets, and it's almost the fact that I think become popular with like little girls and so on. They almost have to do that thing like, whoa, let's make her more of an anti-hero, not necessarily a supervillain like she used to be. And I think that's kind of like the turning point. Like it sounded weird, like that part. Even though the scene kind of works, I felt that was like it gave like this thing. I was like, I think the real Harley Quinn wouldn't have a problem like doing that. I mean, I don't think she's gonna kill any kid, but you know what I mean? Like she's a psychopath. Like that's not gonna you don't have like you know what I mean? I feel like she would follow in the Joker's footsteps no matter what, and Joker has no problem doing anything.
Yeah, definitely.
So like I mean, I do think the build up to that though is still kind of funny. How it's like they primed her. Which one of those ones? Like, let's be honest. Like, if you're the king of like Corto Maltese or whatnot, like you're gonna take some loony from fucking like the East Coast and like marry her. Like you should know that this was a terrible idea.
Well, I even kind of like so many people hate me. He's like, did you show them the birds?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the small lines like that. Like I always liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but I just feel like Harley Quinn as a character was a character who got overshined and pushed in the front of the line of so many other things for so long. I was just getting a little tired of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like they finally, I think and I thought she always did a good job.
Well, yeah, she always was like fine.
But with this movie and the Harley Quinn animated series, they finally kind of really toned her, like they've really kind of tuned her into like what she should be and what she could be in the DC universe, and I think that works. I think she works as an anti-hero. She's even been an anti-hero recently in the comics more. Like she's
she's been like that for like the last
Tinian.
10 years. She's kind of been pushed more into like a almost like a Deadpool kind of like that. That's how I always feel like she was kind of after the animated series and so on like that. She was almost kind of like designed to be DC's Deadpool. It's DC's female Deadpool. That's what I kind of feel like what it was. You know, and at first I remember because those first books were kind of like, well, it's Deadpool, but it's PG-13 Deadpool, so I don't know, there's something feels like something's missing, you know. But as time has gone on, they've kind of got her into that, and I kind of get that's where it sort of goes to, you know, and so on. But I'm saying in this movie, it is nice that she does not overshadow the movie. It doesn't become the Harley Quinn show.
Yeah. Oh, something I wanted to mention about, but then I got sidetracked with something else. Polka Dot Man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought they did a good job with them because when he was first in the movie, I'm like, I knew there was going to be some weird jokes with him and all that, but I don't remember there being like any kind of like body horror with him in the comics. Maybe there was, maybe in the more recent one, but I thought that worked. And the whole idea of him being just this guy, like, there's a whole part where he's all like, because when the third act and they're going in to destroy the tower.
Yeah,
and there's that dude Milton with him the whole time. He's there, but he barely says anything. He's just the guy there with him.
Oh.
And then like they killed Milton. He's like the one guy sad they killed Milton. And he's like, who's Milton? Like, I swear, I think that's the name you hear too often. I think I remember a guy named Milton. Like, he was, the empanada guy. Yeah, oh, Milton. Oh, okay.
Well, what I love about that joke, too, is that because that he's placed in those scenes for a while, but they never, ever make any notion of who that guy is. It's just all because I remember sitting there going, like, who the hell is this other guy just running around with them the whole time? Like, I liked how they brought no attention to it, like, in the movie. Like, for, 20 minutes that he's there, and then all of a sudden he's just brutally murdered, and, like, the polka dot man just like, dude, it's Milton. He's the guy who brought us the empanadas.
Well, there's even the part when they're walking in the rain, they're playing "Hey" by the Pixies, and you see them all looking cool, walking in rain in slow motion. In the far, far distance, if you look, you'd still see Milton walking with them. So he's still going to be part of that shop. It's like, there he is, Milton, no lines almost.
Yeah, exactly. I like that part there. No, the polka dot man, I think the fact that, like, they're like, he was experimented on by his mother, so he just, like, to, like, envision everybody, he just sees everybody as, like, his mother and so on like that, and that's how almost, like, he's not a bad guy, but he wants to kill his mom, so, like, he'll kill anything that he envisions as his mom if need be.
Yeah, and he just has trouble like bottling it all in. And there's a whole part with like, I just felt so bad for that guy, but he was a great character though. And I thought they utilized Starro pretty well too.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool to finally see Starro in like a big movie and so on like that too. Because I was just you always see a Starro. That's the very first Justice League comic book. That's like, who are they battling? They're battling Starro. From outer space, the Conqueror. And just the fact that I'm like, that could work kind of well as a Suicide Squad character and so on like that. And it's just like he's been trapped here, being experimented on in Corto Maltese, as a secret kind of like, American base. And the whole point of the mission is that the Suicide Squad's going there to destroy all the evidence and, make sure that nobody knows that, the Americans were like, they're the ones that brought Starro in. Because I always like there's that shot, like it's like in the 80s or whatever. There's like this space, guys that are like hanging out, like taking pictures of like, hey, look what we found out here.
Yeah, and the thing that like spits a little like baby Starros out, and the more people it gets, the bigger it gets. And I was surprised the level. I knew the movie was going to be violent, and like not so. I knew it was going to be violent and gory. I knew all that was going to happen, but to the level of like when they go into the underground lab and you see all the experiments, and there's the dude who they ripped the Starro off the guy's face, and you saw a bunch of his meat muscle and teeth and all that and gums, and like I was like, oh shit, you guys went the full distance. You went hostile.
Well, that's like almost the best part of this movie more than anything else is this movie delivers so well on the violence, whether it be the action violence, just the background kind of violence, just like the horror movie almost violence. Like that's almost like one of the coolest like things of this. This probably is the most violent, obviously the most violent DC and Marvel movie probably ever made.
Yeah, I'd say this definitely probably maybe Punisher Warzone might have it tops. I know this has a shark. Yeah, this has a shark ripping a dude in half, but Warzone, I mean, there's literally a part where you see a grandma missing half her head, so.
Well, and also, I think Punisher Warzone has less CG violence than this one does.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that, because Punisher Warzone almost has a lot, like kind of like realistic prosthetic type stuff. This one does too, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of CG violence too.
Mm-hmm. Well, even to the point, like, what was the example I was going to make? Like, even like a lot of the King Shark stuff, like, it's very quick, but when it happens brutally.
Yeah, exactly. Just like how King Shark's just going around just eating people randomly, and just like he's a shark. He doesn't know, and he's kind of getting smarter as time goes on, but he still just wants to go out and eat and kill and so on, And he just kind of has like sort of like the dopey, like kind of almost like a dopey kind of fat guy, like that fat guy who's kind of strong, but like also like he doesn't. It's like the guy who goes in the gym and he can lift probably more than anybody else, but he also doesn't know how to like properly diet kind of look. You know what I mean? He just eats anything and everything. I don't know what it is, just like sort of that kind of like that look he's got.
Something about this, and I'm going to use King Shark as an example, but this movie has a tendency to like. I feel like there's a lot. Well, obviously, because the movie's over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes, I think. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's rated R, and I know that makes studios kind of wince a little bit. So I think that this movie is like. I'm going to say this might be kind of a weird comparison. I'm not the one that made it originally. I think it was Chris Stuckman made this example, but. Kind of remind me of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to a certain extent, because it lets you build up to a joke. There are jokes that are kind of like teed off at an early point, and they just let it here there. Like, for instance, like, you know, the whole Bruce Lee scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's there to build up to a big joke. This has a lot of moments like that, whether it be the whole Milton thing. Like, there's that guy. Why is that guy even there? Oh, okay, it was for this joke you were getting. Yeah. And then there's the whole part with, like, even though it's not a joke, it's something that kind of like lets the movie breathe and lets you build up on this character, where I feel like a studio would be like, don't do that. What's the point? Like the whole part when King Shark goes in and sees like the alien jellyfish thing and becomes friends with them, and he's running from one side to the other, going back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's just a moment that really just endears you to that character and kind of really like makes you like think of him less as, or he's still stupid, but he makes you think of less of him as the big dumb animal and more as a character. And like that scene right there, I think that would be something originally like, why is this here in the middle of an action scene? With this, they just let it kind of happen, you know?
Yeah, no, it does have some good moments where like it almost just like has stuff where it's like, okay, we can have some moments too, and we're not going to always break it with a joke or something like that. Because that was always like, I mean, that's like sort of the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 problem, was that you'll have some of these moments and then they'll throw a stupid joke right afterwards, and it's like, dude, you just ruined a moment. Like, come on, dude. Like, you know, there's enough time for jokes throughout the movie. You know, don't break these moments. I mean, it's only happens a handful of times, but it's a handful of times where it's like, you didn't need that there. You just cut that one little line out, and it savors it like 10 times better.
Yeah, or there's also, this movie also builds up to a lot of fuck yeah moments too. Because there's the part when Bloodsport, when they finally turn around, they're like, you know what, we're gonna do what we got to do. We're gonna save the day. And they turn around, they all do it, and you're just the music's building up, and then Bloodsport sees Starro, and then he pulls out one gun. There's a guitar riff, like he, and
the gun keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, and every time like you hear the riff, you think it's going to be, okay, 3 riffs, it's probably going to be good, but it goes on for like 5 or 6 riffs. He just keeps on making this thing bigger, and every time he throws an attachment on it, it just becomes this massive fucking gun with like a rotating like turret at the end of it. So like it's a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I really think that it's not I don't know if I call this my favorite. It's not my favorite of the DC universe movies, but it's definitely up there. It's like top 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it outbeats some Batman ones, but
I'm talking about just the more recent ones, like the more like in this connected universe one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean there. Yeah, you know, because I actually liked it a lot more than I thought it was, because like the first Suicide Squad, it's like that one, as I said, like the first 45 minutes are great, and then it just kind of peters out. So it kind of makes that movie feel like, oh, I remember going into it going like, yeah, hell yeah, this could be one of the best ones. And then you kind of come out, and then the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey one, that one was just kind of okay. I just felt like that was kind of the weak one of them all. But this one kind of came back really strong, and it was just like, oh man, just the whole way through. I mean, John Cena's character the whole way, I mean, granted at the end there's that kind of turnaround where John Cena's there to finish the mission and everybody else is starting to get kind of emotional and get feelings and so on like that. I felt like I was still like, I'm like, fucking John Cena, go shoot them all. Like I was at that point where I was just like, I'm like, dude, I'm like, I know it doesn't seem nice, but like John Cena's got a point. Got to finish the mission. You know what I mean? It's for freedom.
No, peace. I'm not there with you. I guess this is the part of the, if we're on this mission together, we're like, drop the hard drive. That's me right there.
Yeah. See, I don't let emotion get in the way. So I feel like I get what John Cena's doing. He's doing like whatever it takes for freedom and peace. You know what I mean? Like,
even though it's going to an organization that's making the same mistakes over and over and over again.
But, well, it's like one of those ones. I mean, that's only because of the way people write it. But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those ones of like, that doesn't need to go in. Like, I get what John Cena said. Like, that doesn't need to go in the hands of like the regular people. They'll just freak out and it'll just make the situation 10 times worse. So it's like, there, but it's okay. John Cena doesn't die. I was kind of bummed there when he did. At first I was like, oh, if John Cena dies, if I lose both Captain America and John Cena, but it's like, Captain Boomerang.
Captain America. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, when was that? The crossover already happened? Shit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But like still, at the end of the day, it's like, the John Cena character, that was who I was 100%, for, because, I felt like he would have fixed it all and so on. But yeah, no, it's still, even with the kind of like the emotional turnaround in there and so on, like it still makes for a badass action scene, and they take out Starro and everything like that. When people knock out Amanda Waller, I'm like, it's one of those ones like, what are you fucking doing? Like that, like, are you kidding? Like, you're going to all be like hung like tomorrow.
But somehow they're there for the post-credit scene.
Yeah,
so
like that part was a little bit corny, but like I was like one of those ones like if that happened in real like Amanda Waller life, I guess a real Suicide one, like not movie universe, I feel like those people would be all dead. She could have a brand new team.
They'd be in Guantanamo Bay by now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way you are gonna knock out Amanda Waller, and unless you're like Batman or something like that, and get away with it. It's gonna have to take not the fucking lowly fucking computer programmer, the fucking Nedry of the room. It's one of those ones like, if John Hammond would have got a hold of Nedry before he was attacked by the Dilophosaurus, believe me, Nedry would still not be leaving that fucking island. In a sense, Nedry
got sneak up on John Hammond, hit John Hammond in that back of the head with his own cane. Yeah.
Yeah, because if anything, Nedry got off easy. You know what I mean? Who knows what John Hammond would have done? He had a lot of fucking free time on that island now, and like not like anybody's fucking watching. Yeah. Shit, they already covered up a bunch of dinosaur attacks at the beginning, anyways. No one's gonna miss a fat computer programmer.
Well, the room suddenly stinks a lot less. So there you
go. But no, this one was overall very fun. Really enjoyed it. Great. The action, it's just super solid. And yeah, it generally, even though like it has a little bit of missteps in it, it's still like the overall picture kind of fires pretty darn well. And yeah, I think this one might be almost one of those good like turning points in kind of movies. It's almost this, and it sounds weird, kind of this and the combo of Mortal Kombat, both of these movies doing really good. I think it's a good sign that we're going to get to a violent age again, where we don't have, because you know what I mean? There's always like this flow where you get to the point where you get tons of violence and it's great, and then it goes back down to like, hey, let's make the movies PG-13 and safe and family-friendly again, and then it goes back into the violence again. I feel like we're kind of back into like a violent wave, because it seems like the last real big violent wave was like that give or take Grindhouse era, Rambo 4, Punisher Warzone. Remember when we just used to get these like brutal rated R movies, and it was like, oh yeah, and then it kind of, once the 2010 sort of hit, it went back to like the family friendly zone again, and I feel this might be a turning point too. I mean, I know there's like, there's always like little ones, like there was Deadpool, and that kind of came and that created like, Wolverine and so on, but then that didn't seem to last as long, and then it kind of dipped back down again. So hopefully that will bring a more resurgence of, good violence in like, movies.
Yeah, well, not to split hairs on this. I think that, because unfortunately this movie is not doing good right now, just because of, the new
This was like, they said this was like their second best one that they've had in those, the HBO Max launches.
The HBO Max launches, but there's all this mixed things they're talking about. They're talking about box office-wise. This has not been doing good.
Well, movie theaters, like...
Just let me finish my point. Yeah. I got to finish my point first, dude. The thing is, I think that the way they're looking at it is, this is doing good on HBO Max, but box office, it's looking bad, and it's because people brought up all these other different points that, it's a sequel to a movie that has almost the same name as the original, but no one liked the original. Also, it's like coming out during like the second resurgence of the pandemic, the secondary strain the Delta strain is coming out, all these things. But at the exact same time, Warner Brothers, I don't think, is looking at it as a big loss, because I think for once they're actually looking at this in the long term. They're actually looking at it as the HBO Max, and then they're also looking at it as possible Blu-ray, DVD sales down the line. And they're saying, you know what, if we did not have a fucking virus right now, this thing would be killing at the box office. So I think that's almost kind of the way they're viewing it. Like, yeah, we took a hit, but we're still making money on HBO Max. We're still making money over here, over there. In the long term, I think this thing will hopefully sustain kind of like the second coming of cool, violent action movies.
Yeah, because I think if it's one of those ones, like, I mean, like, yeah, it's like, you go to, I mean, shit, like, even Jungle Cruise, when I saw that fucking opening day and so on, that only had, like, 10 or 15 people in the theaters. Like, the average people are not going to the theaters as much. And I will say this, when you do have a movie on HBO Max at the same time, that already, like, is going to, like, eliminate people from the theaters. Because there'll just be some people like, I'm kind of busy today. I'm going to watch it on here. I mean, like, I need to save a couple bucks. We're going to watch it on here and so on like that. So that's going to kind of stop it. But, like, yeah, it's just, I just don't think, the normal public's not going to the theaters yet. It's like, it seems like when you go to the theaters nowadays, it's all the hardcore movie fans that are kind of there. I mean, which makes it nice. Don't get me wrong. I love, like, it not being that crowded when you go in there. But, it is one of those ones that's like, that's almost like, you almost can't even look at that. That's almost like the bonus cash nowadays, I feel, is in the movie theaters. That's kind of, you almost got to sort of figure, like, what's your other revenues going to be with the movies, and how you got to sort of change and adapt.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, I mean, there's a period where just like, all right, we're just sitting on all these big movies. We got to get them out there somehow. We got to make, oh, you know what? We got the streaming service we just launched. Let's just fucking do it. What else, But at the exact same time, though, I think that, I saw this one in theaters. I would have liked to see this one in theaters back home, but HBO Max isn't available here anyway. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's go see it. We have a day off. Let's go. We have a day. We're not. This is actually my girlfriend's.
You go in there. The movie's all in Italian and there's no subtitles.
No, we actually went to go see this because we went to the Netherlands because half her family's in the Netherlands, the other half is in Italy. So Netherlands first, we went to go see the movie, and if we saw it here, it would have been dubbed, but in the Netherlands, it is subtitled. So I learned how to say fuck in Dutch, which is kunt, which sounds like cunt, but it's kunt, So either way, you're pissing somebody off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, yeah, because it's like, well, it's weird. It's weird if you say cunt in like the USA, people like look at you like you just said the worst word ever. I'm just like so used to Guy Ritchie movies. It's like every other word of that thing. Like, and I'm like, I'm gonna be cool and British and walk around like, and then you say it in real life in the US, and people just go like, what the fuck did this guy just say? You know what I mean?
I want to Matthew McConaughey and the Gentleman walk around with a paperboy hat and a pinstripe suit.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, oh. It's amazing.
I watched that on the plane ride over, and I was like, "Oh, they do say cunt a lot in this movie." It's a good movie. I dig that.
Good, but yeah. No, Suicide Squad, fun. Check it out by any means possible. Whether you watch it on HBO, whether you watch it on cinemas, or if you want to get it on Blu-ray once that comes. Because hell, these movies kind of come out so quick now on Blu-ray. It's like 2 months later, it'll probably be out on Blu-ray. So you got those choices there too. But yeah, no, I definitely think it's a very strong mark for comic book movies. I think hopefully it will kind of keep it going. And I think as long as they look at the right numbers, they'll see that this movie actually is performing pretty darn well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the long term, I think maybe for once they're actually looking, because that's the thing about a lot of movies. They just look at opening box office. That's all they look at. Like maybe for once they're actually looking at long-term success, but who knows? Anyway,
well, it's like Black Widow. It's like shit. Seeing that movie on opening day, generally a Marvel movie would have, been, if you saw it in cinemas, would have been filled to the brim, and there's probably like, maybe 30 people in there,
When I went to see Suicide Squad, it was like maybe like a little under 25% full. It was pretty empty. It was opening day for it too. So it's like, ooh, that's too bad. But at the same time,
you almost gotta take it into account. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to take everything else into account with it.
Because I just think nowadays it's like, that's still pretty good for nowadays. Because now it's like, you're not going to have everybody and like, their mother out there like at the theaters anymore. But yeah, check it out. Fun stuff. Beyond all that good stuff, you can go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, and all other kinds of fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
I'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.